Hello and welcome back to DriveDriverDriven. I'm Humble, and today we're back on the zero, kind of a mad rush to get this project finished up more or less by the end of the year. Last time we sorted out hopefully the last of our fuel issues, at least for troubleshooting. We're kind of running on a band-aid, but we're running. This time around, what we need to do is get a basic string alignment on the car to make it a little more street friendly, at least to get our next set of inspections done. So what we have to do is first get our alignment done, at least a basic string alignment, and I'll show you how to get that done just using the driver's side of the car here. But ideally, you'll do both sides. You'll have a string rig set up. This is just for brevity. And then once that string alignment's done, I'll be able to drive it down the street for its brake and light inspection. And I'll do a quick overview of that at the end, sort of what they look for and what you need to do in preparation for that inspection. So first up, let's take a look at our string alignment setup and what we're trying to accomplish. All right, as you can see, I've got our kind of basic string alignment set up. It is what it says on the tin. It's a basic piece of string run between two set points. So in this instance, I'm using just a couple of jack stands, but you've probably seen a setup of like tubes and fishing line and different things hanging off the front and the back end of the car. They do this even on race cars for quick track alignments. Generally speaking, these sort of alignments are very quick and easy to perform at the track without needing a multi-$1,000 machine. The gist of it is you want to use this string as your baseline. This is your reference point. And what you need to do is make sure that this string is the same distance from both hubs, right in the center. And knowing that, if you're assuming your wheel hubs are in a straight line, they may not be if your car has a different track width in the front and in the back. I believe the zero is close enough that we can get this going. Again, this will just get us on the street and keep the tires from scrubbing basically and tearing the rubber off just simply driving down the road. Now we know that our set point is right here in the middle, and the way I've got that set up is that's 20 centimeters. But if we look at the wheel back here is 16.5 centimeters, and if we look at the wheel in the front, it's 17.5 centimeters. So what that tells me is that the front of the wheel here is actually sticking out outside of the car, or in other words, that's toe out, and that's a lot of toe out. So what we have to do is adjust this wheel so that it's pointed more or less in a straight line, and this measurement and this measurement are the same. That also applies to the front wheels. Again, we'll take a measurement back here, which looks like about 16.3 centimeters. And then in the front here, closer to 18. So again, way toe out, lots and lots of toe out. So again, we'll adjust the front wheels so they're pointed straight, and I'll get you set up on the time lapse while I get that done. All right, so since somebody forgot to turn the mic on, we're going to do a little voiceover. So what you saw me do there is I set the string, alignment string up, and I measured the rear and the front wheels. And what I found was that both front and rear were within a couple of millimeters of being straight to the line. I figure that was close enough that I didn't really need to mess with it too much. So back over here on the driver's side, since I had set this true up, my sort of game plan to attack this was to use a set of toe plates, put one on the passenger side, one on the driver's side, and then by using those toe plates, I could true up one side to the other to make sure that there was no extra toe in or toe out. Now the one tricky thing about the Zero is how these toe links set up. So here on the arm, what looks like a turnbuckle here is not. It's actually threaded the same way on both sides, so you can twist it, which would normally twist the wheel in and out or push the wheel in and out, but it just rotates there on the arm. It doesn't actually move that ball joint in or out. So what you have to do is you have to remove that nut off the bottom there or unscrew the arm, make your adjustment, and then put everything back. So here's a quick look at the toe plates as they're set up on the car. If you haven't seen these before, they're very simple devices. It's just a piece of bent aluminum that rests up against each wheel. And then as you can see, I've got a tape measure on both sides so that when you run that tape measure across, you can see the measurement on each side. Now you want to make sure that those toe plates are up flush against the wheel, and then when you're taking the measurements on the measuring tapes, you want to make sure that you're pulling on both of them at the same time. And what that does is it prevents the plate on the other side from pulling one direction or the other. So looking at this, I can see that it appears that the front is toed in a little bit. And we're going to need to correct that by adjusting our tie rod here on the other side. As I mentioned before, you can twist that piece. It doesn't actually adjust the length. So what we're going to have to do is pull that off, make our adjustments, and then put it back on. So the easiest way I've found to do this is to remove the tie rod completely, just unscrew it, drop the heim joint out from on it, and then what I'm doing here is just checking to see how much thread engagement I've got on the arm. And you'll see me do this a couple times. I thread it in and out, check the measurement, then I put that lower nut back on to hold the heim joint in place loosely, and make a few adjustments, adjust the wheel in and out, adjust the thread, so on and so forth. But in the end, got it fairly bang on with about a millimeter or two of toe out, and that's pretty close enough for government work to get this car up and on the road. All right, really quick, we're going to go through a brake and lamp inspection. Now this is kind of what they would look for during your inspection process. I'll start with the brake light since I got you on the tripod, and that's the most difficult one to demonstrate. But the car's on, and we have our brake lights. The other thing they're going to look for is if you have your key off. In the US, at least in California, you are required to have hazard lights that work while the ignition is off and the keys are out of the ignition. So if I hit our hazard buttons, you can see we got working front hazards and our working rears. So those are all good. If I put our key back in, next we're going to test turn signals. Got our left turn signal up here. Make sure it is just the left side. Ditto for the back, just the left side. Then we have our right. Likewise, in the front we have the right. You may notice I also have the hazards blinking as well as our indicator on the dash. Just kind of a double heads up. Mainly it's for me. I don't like to be that guy with the flashers going down the road. So next up is your idle or parking lights. As you can see, our dash lights up with that circuit. And from the rear, we have our parking lights going. On the front, there are no parking lights. There is a circuit for a side marker. I don't know if that actually lights up with the parking lights or if it's turn signal only. I believe it's only for turn signals. And then on the headlights themselves, they do not have like a parking light or an idle light inside. They're just headlights. So that is those set up. And if we look up front, we have our headlights. If we have the lights again in park, we can flash. The flash function works with the headlights on. I can flash, and I can also put them in high beam. So headlights work like they're supposed to. The stock assembly that I'm using, I believe, is from an NB or a second gen Miata. So I've just hooked up all of the stock functions for the Miata to make them work here in the Zero. Last but not least, we have our reverse light, and that's all of the functions that they will look for in the brake and lamp inspection. Now, one sort of bonus thing that I have is I have a fog light installed, but the way I have it wired is if we have the lights on, because they should be on if you're driving in the wet and the rain, you hit the fog light button, and we have a fog light, which is just a brighter light in the back to get attention when you're in inclement weather, heavy fog or heavy rain. Not that I really want to be driving this car in heavy rain, but our microclimates in the mountains up here give you all the benefits of an English summer. So I fully expect to be rolling through the mountains under heavy fog, just because I've already done that several times this year. So that's the gist of it for the light or brake and light inspection. Now, you will need to adjust the headlights accordingly. Kind of a good rule of thumb is you want to make sure that the beam pattern is as tall as the light itself, in the middle of the light, projected on a wall from, I think it's like 10 or 12 feet away. And you want to make sure that the beams are angled straight and not off to one side. And they will check all of that at the light inspection. They'll look for like the beam pattern quality, they'll look for where it's aimed, and they'll be able to adjust the lights and everything accordingly using the machines that they have. And that's pretty much it. So a little bit of a different setup today. Trying out kind of a old new camera, see how it works in the garage. Something maybe a little bit better than the GoPro, different sound. Let me know what you guys think, if it's an improvement or I need to kind of dial things in a little bit, but otherwise, next step for the Zero then is our brake-in lamp inspection, and I'm hoping to get that completed tomorrow. After that is a trip to the DMV to get our sort of almost final registration taken care of. At that appointment, I'll be able to apply for the SB 100 exemption. For us Californians, that's a smog exemption for kit cars or low volume production cars. And I'll be able to get our 30-day move permit, which means, well, with my insurance, I'll be able to drive this out on the road, and then we can start to do shakedown runs, get our proper alignment done, and start doing some troubleshooting, because inevitably there's teething issues. So that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.